So PwC gave us a 100-page document on how they're going to conduct an audit. And then we started dabbling around, hey, can we automate this? And that led to a couple of scripts, like real-time monitoring. CISO got extremely happy about it. Like, hey, this is a great concept. Here's a $3 million check. Go build this. And then 2 months later, another company made a very similar offer to us. My team to start thinking, hey, if we can automate it, these guys would be our first customers. We had a first customer without actually a product. Every deal size was almost about 100K, 150K. As a period of 4 to 5 months time, it would go 3x or 4x of it.
Thank you so much for joining today. Where are you calling from?
I'm based in Seattle, the beautiful, always sunny Seattle, where it's definitely always sunny. This is springtime. Uh, you know, uh, it's all green at this moment. Tad bit of rain, but days are getting beautiful. So yeah,
Wonderful,
enjoying it here.
wonderful, wonderful. Seattle. It's not too far from where I am. At least we're in the same time zone. I'm in San Francisco. Great to meet you. Before we dig in, I'd like to give you a little bit of context. I'm the founder of Imperial Arts. We partner with B2B SaaS companies to help increase their revenue and profitability by acquiring new clients. That is why we're interviewing the leaders in the B2B SaaS industry, such as you, with ThriveStack AI, and previously also Mercedes-Benz, Cisco, to gain deeper insights into the market while providing value back to you in the form of this podcast. It usually takes around 30 to 40 minutes. Does that sound good to you?
It's perfect. You told
Wonderful.
me that. I blocked my calendar for that.
You're good. Um, okay, so I understand that ThriveStack provides growth intelligence within the B2B industry. Could you share some insights into your business and the role you play within it?
Sure. Sure, for all of your listeners, my name is Guru Raj. I'm a third-time founder. I've done 2 startups before, and successfully exited from them. I learned quite a bit from the previous startups, especially, what we were missing. My first startup was purely partner-led. So we had partners like Microsoft, KPMG, Deloitte, Accenture. They were helping us out, to take us to the market. My second startup was a mix of partner-led and sales-led, but when we got acquired, it was purely sales-led, and we were leaving a lot of money on the table, and we had various incumbents. We're essentially going after a very larger market, but many upstarts started coming up, and they started selling through product-led motions. And we initially thought that, hey, these guys are going and skimming the bottom layer, that the ones that we are not necessarily yet equipped to go do it. But we realized they're also going after mid-size and enterprise segments purely through product-led motions. I was missing during this entire time was insights into where are we growing, which customers are we growing with, what's the initial land deals that we are getting. It was mostly sales led, so we were going, one after the other on a quarterly basis. But the entire growth intelligence across the market, who's coming to us, what's our marketing, how much are we spending on the marketing? Are people coming up and signing up to our product? If so, how long it has taken for them to have from the first touch point to the sign up to the activation. So we had no clue. We didn't have any data to back us up, which is why I decided that as I build the third one, I want to use data to formulate the growth, and that led to ThriveStack, which is now a growth intelligence platform.
That's amazing. And before we dive into ThriveStack, which is incredible that it stemmed from one of your kind of pain points, and you built it from that, I would love to dig in a little bit into you being a serial entrepreneur, serial founder. How was it to exit these two previous companies, and Yeah, if you don't mind sharing a little bit of that process, I think it's quite a unique position that a lot of founders are looking to do. What was the process, and um, how did it end?
Maybe we'll start with the end. The end was good, but that wasn't the goal. And maybe that helped, right? So if we were to build it purely to exit, then we would not have built something meaningful. Me and my team in both the startups, we were essentially trying to solve a problem that was big and hairy that most companies had. For example, my first company, which was built in 2011, 2012, 2013 timeframe, was with the idea that more and more companies are going to the cloud. So we built a backup and recovery product that enables any company, big or small, to essentially back up their assets in the data centers and migrate to the cloud. So we became a migration helper. And if we had thought ourselves as a migration helper, it would have become a consulting services. But what we did is we essentially built a backup and recovery product that various consulting companies used us to migrate their clients, right? And it was extremely big. So which is why Accenture and many other Avanade and many other services companies used us, to help migrate the customers who are from data center to the cloud. It got exited because because we were growing pretty fast and we had not taken any funding. So I came from a background of building engineering teams and product teams. I had no idea on how to raise capital. I had no idea on how to hire a sales team, at that time. And we were suffering because of my own ignorance, in this particular space. That's when we had one of our partners said, hey, either you grow pretty fast, so you might have to go, get, at least uh, get closer to 20, $30 million of investment and grow fast, or we'll help you acquire your product and we'll grow. But you decide on any one of them. And I had no idea on how to go raise capital at that time.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
it was indecision, on my part. Should I raise or should I not raise? If I have to raise, who do I go to, right? So we were incredibly happy with deploying our product to customers. I did not put myself, with 30, 40% of my time to go after the investors. So investors was really not my target.
Mm.
I think, because of that divergence, many of these growth partners, they came together and said, we're going to acquire you. And they made an offer, and that was incredibly exciting, and which I said no to at least three times. And then they kept on pursuing. It was a huge boon to their business, so it was a natural exit. The second was cloud security. Our primary focus was, and maybe there's a story in between. After the backup and recovery product, which is called Avid, me and my team were like twiddling our thumbs. Hey, what do we do? What's the big problem that we should solve? And we were getting some revenue, because of the deal that we had, for the next 2 and a half years or so. We were figuring out what needs to be done. And somebody reached out to us saying that, hey, you guys understand cloud. Can you guys help us with cloud architecture for some of these major enterprises who are on two different clouds, Azure and AWS? Can you help us out on that? And then we said, well, we are doing nothing, so why don't we just go and help them out? And that led them to propose that me and my team, we become the central part of the cloud architecture team, and they build a team around that. So we built the entire cloud strategy. We essentially did all of the DevOps migration, built out the entire infrastructure in an automated way because we're product guys, we're not really consulting guys. So we built everything, automated. And then, the client in this case was a very large telecom provider. Say, hey, you've done this for 3 apps. Can you do this for 700 apps? And say, oh my goodness, no way. They had 21 data centers and they wanted to migrate everything to the cloud, in the span of 3 years or so. And we said, well, we can help build out the template, but you'll need a larger, team. You'll need a lot of tools. Uh, the CISO of that particular company, he came knocking and he said that, of the three apps that you built, one of them is going to production, and we need security and compliance for that. And PwC was their compliance company. They were their auditor. So PwC, gave us, a 100-page document on how they're going to conduct an audit, on this one, and we had to go read that and then figure out how do we ensure that the product is or the application is audit ready. And then we started dabbling around, hey, can we automate this? Can we automate? And that led to a couple of scripts that we can run on the infrastructure as real time, like a real time monitoring, and a couple of scripts that can be run while somebody is pushing, the product and deploying it to the cloud. And so the CISO got extremely happy about it. Like, hey, this is a great concept. Here's a $3 million check, and go build this for all these three apps. Each of them have different auditors. That's the time when I said, hey, can we make this as a product? And then 2 months later, another company, a large retail company selling luxury goods, they also made a very similar offer to us, and we had a small number of consultants over there as well. And that led me and my team to start thinking, hey, if we can automate it, these guys would be our first customer. So we went and approached the telecom provider. Can we, you know, build this as a SaaS product? And instead of we taking $3 million from you, we'll take 2 million as a check for, a 3-year contract to the product that we'll build, right? And then $1 million we will use it for consulting. And they said
Fantastic.
no. And they said
Oh no.
no. Yeah, they said no because, like, if you're going to go build a product now, it's going to take another 9 to 12 months, and they don't have the time. They need it, in closer to 4 or 5 months time or so. So we kept at it, to the second, retail luxury goods company, which I don't want to name here. We made a similar offer to them, and they accepted it, right?
No way.
Yes, they accept, and we had a first customer without actually a product. It was something that we were building, and they said, "Hey, this is going to save us cost. Please deploy the tool and make sure that the data residency happens, in our terms and not like a pure SaaS service where you take the data and then you never give it back to us." So we built that, and that was the first customer. So we had to go register a company after they said yes. So we did all the company registration, took a small portion of the team that we had in the consulting and deployed it here. And then we started hiring from outside purely to build that as a product company. So we had the first customer there, and then Microsoft was selling Azure to that particular company. And they noticed what we're building, and they said, hey, we have very similar luxury goods, retail company that we want, to introduce you to. And they took us to about 7 odd customers in a span of another 4 months or so. And we essentially acquired all of those large customers. So every deal size was almost about 100K, 150K as a land deal. And then, over a period of 4 to 5 months' time, it would go 3x or 4x of it. Right.
Wow. So
It was
so
very interesting.
that's such an interesting position to be in because the first company you didn't have an option. You kind of had to sell. The second one here, you didn't really have to get a sales team either because you got these clients or these contracts or how did that work?
Yeah, so we didn't have the sales team. And me and my partner, we were the sales guys, and we were also building, we were also the product guys. And actually, they liked that part of it. They didn't like to, because this was a very technical cloud security kind of a product. They wanted to interface with someone who knows the space and not so much as a sales guy. So we couldn't find a typical sales guy who can sell something like this. But thankfully, PwC, who audited, they liked our product, and they said, we have risk advisors who can actually take your product to the market. So they got us about, uh, you know, uh, closer to 15, 20 odd, customers. They were the sales guys, and we were just the guys who were building the product and, deploying it and getting the paychecks for it.
What better partner to have than PwC?
Correct, right. I mean, PwC was the first one, but then we had Deloitte, we had KPMG, we had Ernst& and Young,
Wow.
all of them, So Microsoft invested in us, so we took investment checks from them, and they were also a go-to-market partner, for us. So that was all good, but we were only going after customers who are coming through the partner channel, and they were mostly big, medium to big size companies. And after the acquisition, we essentially, we're only selling to the big guys. And our sales team, once we got through the acquisition, uh, sales team would essentially only sell to companies who they would feel that they would at least pay $30,000 as an annual contract fee, without which they won't even touch the customer. So if the annual or ACV is less than $30,000 a year, they would not touch that customer even with a long pole. Which essentially meant that we kept, you know, many upstarts and many other providers in the market open, because they can come and sell it at, $100 a month, 1,000 a month, right? And we would not go, for that customer. And we actually lost a lot of, enterprise customers because of that. Most of them wanted to touch and feel that, with, like, let's say $100 a month, $1,000 a month, and then they will have a conversation about, hey, let's do a multi-year contract, and that can be, sometimes even 300K, 400K, a year. So we would lose an opportunity because we have not deployed ourselves into such situations. So that's where I realized that, hey, the spectrum of growth is not just selling to the big enterprises, because after some time you become irrelevant. You need to also tackle the upstarts. You have to build a GTM play which is both product led and sales led. It can't be just purely sales led or partner led. That was our case. And then you
As
have to go after all, segments in the space, because we are a product that can actually satisfy the need of all the segments. And because of our GTM motions, we were only limited to a very specific, segmentation of the market, which essentially led me to start thinking that, and as the AI world is capturing through, product led, sales led, and AI led, all of these will essentially become the growth levers for you. And the growth intelligence becomes the primordial aspect based on which you can decide, hey, this is the segment that we are growing, these are the segments we are not growing. Let's double down on the ones that we are growing. Let's tweak a little on the places where we are not growing. So that became essentially ThriveStack.
what a wonderful insight, and what a wonderful story that led you to this new startup. Are you comfortable sharing how much your exits went for, the first one and the second one?
The first one was in, I can't share the exact numbers because they were very private. The first one was mostly a cash plus, operations deal. And that was, upwards, of a few million. We were four of us and seven interns. So, our salaries times 20, right, was typically the takeaway for us. The second was, in multi, 10 digits of millions. We're a large 40-member team, US, India, and globally, Philippines, and Costa Rica. And we said no 7 times, for various offers. And then every single time we said no, the offer would go, 30% more, 40% more. And that wasn't, what we wanted to negotiate on. We actually did not want to sell. We were growing pretty fast.
So we can safely assume it was over 10 to 20 million dollars at this point.
Yeah, multiples of that.
Multiples of that. Wow, incredible. What a story. And congratulations.
Okay, thank you so much.
Um, well, I do want to focus more on ThriveStack, of course. So let's dive into a little bit about that business. What are the current trends in the market that you are aware of, and where are the winds kind of blowing? What are you noticing in the space that you're in currently?
Yeah, so we, maybe just to introduce you and your listeners. So we are essentially, a company that allows various SaaS companies to understand where the growth leaks are happening. And the way that we essentially are focusing on, you know, tapping down on the leaks. Think of this as a leaky bucket problem. You're starting to get visitors in from your marketing website onto your product, but eventually only 5% or less than that will stay, right, and use your product. So we are on a mission to figure out which of the top places you're retaining the customers, which are the top areas that you are essentially churning or losing, your visitors to your product, even the ones who are paid customers. So think of us as a growth intelligence spectrum across the entire bow tie funnel. What I mean by bow tie funnel is, if acquisition is a funnel, all the way from, the marketing team, creates campaigns. They go to your website, and after maybe 5 to 9 touch points, that's the industry touch points, they might be ready to actually try your product, right? And if they might either talk to the sales guys, or they might want to, sign up to the product talk without talking to the sales guys, right? So there's a friction for the sales. That's the first level. So go from marketing to the product. The second level is they have now signed up to your product, but they may not have activated. They may not have set up. So there might be a leak that's happening there. All the way from activation to they like the product. If they don't, they have activated, they've used it, but they're not engaging with your product. Right? In such a scenario, they're going to have a drop off as well. They may not like the monetization or the pricing plan. They might leak out of your funnel. They might become a paid customer to you, but their usage over a period of time will keep on reducing. So that might be a retention leak. They might be retained to you, but they're only using a specific set of features, which might mean that they may not expand at all. So at across the entire segment of the entire journey, most SaaS companies will find leaks. Some people might call them as a leaky funnel at the top and the leaky retention or expansion at the, other end of the, customer segment. What we've decided is that this whole thing is a bow tie, and then if we insert ourselves into each areas, understand marketing, so we essentially can replace marketing analytics tools. We insert ourselves in the product, we can essentially replace product analytics tools. We insert ourselves into revenue, help them understand that, hey, from this particular segment, this is how much you're earning. What's your MRR, net retention rate? So essentially, we become a subscription analytics company as well. Not for the sake of being a subscription analytics company, but being able to go tie this across the entire growth channel. So that gives us the option to unify marketing data, product data, revenue data, and retention data. And by looking at that, we can actually determine where the leaks are happening and help them advise, that, hey, if you tweak this particular lever or turn this particular screw a little bit, you might do better at that. So we have various machine learning aspects to help them understand this is where you're leaking. These are things that you can tweak so that they can make intelligent decisions, to essentially tap the leaks.
Wonderful. That sounds amazing. It kind of sounds like from every experience that you have starting up startups, you come up with new problems that you faced yourself. And again, this seems to be one of those, like about growth, about acquiring new clients. And with that being said, how easy is it for you today to attract and retain high quality leads and clients for your own business?
Yeah. So 2025 is a very different year than my previous two startups. In the previous two startups, the number of SaaS companies in a particular segment were very small, meaning less than maybe 10 or 15 of them. In today's market, the products have to be way better. It needs to solve real pains, real problems. It needs to get activated much faster. People don't have the attention span that they had even 5, 10 years back. So if they like it, they might have an urge or a need to go buy it. if they don't like it, even if the product is great, it does various things, they may not necessarily go and open their wallet, to paying. So what we have seen, we are an early stage company. It's hardly been about a year and a half or so. And we're growing pretty rapidly in terms of the number of signups. Every month that we now have more than 50 to 60 odd signups, purely all B2B SaaS companies. So that's great. Our retention rate till now is, in the low single digits, more so because it takes a lot more setup to be done. And we are tweaking to make sure that, they can feel the value in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the sign up. Right now, because we feel there are 3 or 4 reasons, the onboarding is pretty complex. It takes more than an hour or so, yeah, and that's significantly better than some of the other growth analytics product in the market, but they are much bigger than us, which means that they can actually go and deploy customer success teams to sit down and do all of that. We don't have the option at this moment, so the best chance that we have is to make the product better so that we can actually go get the customers. The
I see.
second place where we see that, and we are dabbling around with this, is pricing and packaging. And we went after early stage companies with a very low ball offer, and then we started seeing, and because of we are using our own dog food, if you will, we started seeing that the companies who are actually signing up to the product and who are willing to pay are slightly bigger than the ones we were targeting. So our ICP was not very good, with the very outset. We thought that we will actually acquire more early stage SaaS companies. They get to use it so that they don't have to necessarily use third party products. We can come in little more early, but that was a bad assumption. We are starting to see that there are slightly bigger or mid-sized companies that are willing to pay now, so it's not a deferred revenue 3 months, 6 months later. It is now. So we are right now going after and tweaking our entire messaging, positioning, and all our campaigns are now associated to going after this particular ICP. So,
Very
so we're
interesting.
learning quite a bit, in the last
Wow.
maybe 2 to 3 months time.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it seems like you're doing pretty well on signups. 50 to 60 a month is great. Are they all inbound sales from maybe SEO in your social media, or do you actually rely mostly on a sales team to get those in?
Yeah. So we this time around have not done partner led, no sales team. So we are purely trying to become as product led as possible so that we get the product better. And that was my learning. Even after we got acquired, we had to spend more than $2 million to make the product better for the segment that we have. So this time around, I'm actually focusing on building the right product for the right audience, and then scale up our sales team. So the learnings that we have and the way that we are doing the GTM is that essentially there are 3 learning. The first one is it takes actually more touch points now. Um, y- for the mid-market customers, our learning is it takes about at least 9 touch points, if not maybe 13 touch points for them to, not, meaning 9 times they will come and interact with our digital channels. Could be our outbound, could be our newsletter, could be our website. So it takes about at least 9 touch points for them to go ahead and say, click on schedule a demo, or click on sign up to the product, right? Until they make a decision to have some kind of a commitment, it takes at least 9 touch points. So what we did, and knowing that, and that's really coming out from our own product by looking at the visitor tracking and all of that, we realized that, hey, we are not doing it right. Why don't we go, double down on the upstream? So we started running a newsletter campaign, purely, talking about, hey, this is how the industry is going. This is how others are managing it. These are some of the learnings, and these are the top line growth leagues. And what we realize, and that's a big learning, had never done a newsletter campaign like that before, is that campaign went from, uh, inorganically, we had seeded about 5,000 odd companies there. In 4 months' time, it has gotten to more than thousand odd subscribers, to the campaign, right? And then of those subscribers, almost 40-50% of them are or ICP. So they are clicking on the website, they are coming to, they're navigating through this, and that's how we are actually driving more and more signups. So it's the content that we are pushing first as a newsletter campaign and the various touch points. So after the content, we are doing an outbound campaign, purely email, a lot more AI driven now. And then, anyone who's replied to us, sure enough, we will integrate with them. Anyone who's not replied to us, we put them onto a LinkedIn campaign. So we have an automation flow, on 3 or 4 different steps. We haven't started investing in ads or any retargeting, but that's something that we will do. But our hope and our realization is that if we double down on this particular funnel, of our investments on the various touch points, it's very likely that our number of signups will definitely go up, but we'll actually get more customers who will be ready to, sign up and try our product and pay it, right there and then. So
There.
until we go like fully there, we have a long trial window at this moment. And then once we start attaining, some kind of a mass virality to our product, we'll keep on reducing that window, making our product better and better over time.
Yeah, and you mentioned making your product better, spoken like a true founder. You want to provide value. And when you look at the next 6 to 12 months in your business, where do you see the biggest opportunity for growth that you are really excited about, and where do you see the biggest gaps that need to be fixed?
Yeah, so there are 3 or 4 learnings, right? So newsletter campaigns are actually performing much, much better than expected. Our outbound campaign, we recently learned that our open rates were abysmally low, our reply rates were almost nothing at all. And then we added a little bit of AI to it, and a little bit of context to it. Boom, it popped up, right? So our open rates are now closer to, or smart lead email outbound open rates are now closer to 20-25 odd percent. Uh, you know, Typically, for regular company might be between 8 to 12 odd percent. So we started to see a significant this thing because our previous touch points, like newsletter campaign and all of that, they had, the smart lead campaign is only targeting the ones who have interacted with our newsletter and nothing completely cold, right? So these are not necessarily cold; these are warm. Um, our LinkedIn campaigns are doing extremely well, much better than what we were expecting. So we realized that this particular, you know, various touch points works well for mid-sized companies. It does not work well, for anyone who's maybe beyond 5 million ARR, because for them we actually don't see any touch points converting, right? For that we might have to invest in, maybe sales or events, or in-person events or webinars or some other channels which, are not the whole automated channels that we currently are building.
Right, right. Yeah, that sounds great. You already have a lot of strategies in place. They're working, and that's amazing to hear. So, speaking of ads, I know you mentioned a little bit about your LinkedIn campaigns, and you haven't ran ads yet, but you're looking into it. How important is it for you to build a more strategic visibility right now? So, whether that will be the branding of the company or the company's positioning, or just getting the story out more clearly to ideal partners and clients. Is that something you're looking into? I know you mentioned a little bit with customizing it with AI. How important is that for you?
Yeah. So, and ads is something that I'm not very comfortable with, right? Because previously I've spent in my previous company, we spent more than $4 to $5 million, on purely Google ads and a tad bit of Meta ads. The return of that was not all that good. So I've been bitten by uh, been bitten by it once before. So I want to go, do it a lot more measured at this time. So what I'm trying to and willing to go experiment right now is just retargeting ads. People who have essentially opened, our newsletter campaign or emails, will only target them, and we'll probably only touch upon some lookalike companies associated with that. And we will experiment with that for the first maybe 3 to 6 months time. That gives us the opportunity to only target, only spend very little, experiment with it, rather than have a gargantuan funding, which I realize many of the founders that I talk to, the moment they cross $1 million in revenue, they start thinking about, hey, if ads becomes an acquisition channel, and they spend more than 4 to 5 million a year in the first 1 to 2 years time, and that's money not well spent. And just because they've taken VC funding, so they have that funding, so they think they can experiment with it. But I think I want to be a lot more wiser than that, hopefully, and only, use and experiment it with smaller and smaller increments before I essentially use it for scale.
That is such a big insight here because I think founders that haven't gone through the as many exits as you have and seen as much as you have, when they get that funding, those marketing costs also balloon respective to the investment that they've received. So instead of trying out smaller numbers, it is so easy to just go all in and just go for it. And yeah, we hear these horror stories where people go bankrupt on ads and expensive office spaces. And I'm glad to hear like from someone like you that you've seen it firsthand and you don't want to make the same mistake.
Yeah, I think even in my previous company, and I see that across the board, the top three budgets that get allocated once you get VC money, right? Sales and marketing balloons to about 60-70% of your total spend, right? And much of that, those experiments don't yield any results. Essentially, it's going after getting a VP of sales when you don't need one, going after unnecessary building a large SDR teams, which when in today's market with the AI-led approach, you can essentially cut it down through various automations. You can actually even have an AI SDR to make outbound calls as well, which is very close, right, to the AI SDR. Then the sales and the marketing spends are massive. Primarily, that's the ads. That's unnecessary spent on ads, unnecessarily building up websites and adding more and more content and getting all the content guys. And I've done that in the past. I've hired about like 5 or 6 content guys, building out various blogs and pushing that content and getting all of that SEO readiness of it. I think in today's day and age, SEO, might be an overkill, because Google's ranking towards your particular website is, they're tuning more and more towards an AI led rather than SEO led, content. So which means that you have to fine tune your content for appearing on, on Gemini, on ChatGPT, on Perplexity, and so on and so forth, rather than just on, organic Google and Bing searches.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you talked a lot about hiring. So when it comes to building or scaling teams to help drive growth, do you prefer doing most things yourself, or are you more focused on finding the right partners and systems to take things off your plate?
I will focus on finding someone who might be a right-hand man to me, either, and I prefer to hire them into the company most of the time. So once you have the funds, why experiment with a third-party provider? We'll work with a third-party provider, but I'll get someone to essentially own it on our side, which means that they will own the quota to it. They'll be fully accountable and responsible for it, rather than a third-party, fully deployed virtual CMO, virtual sales team who may not necessarily take an accountability towards it.
Yeah, that sounds very intelligent. And a lot of founders say the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Otherwise,
ideally it might be a mix.
yeah, yeah. It is sometimes some people say no, I want to have control, but the ones that scale and have the bigger companies usually work with other people. And yeah, one thing we do love about the leaders that we interview is that they're usually really open to new ways of solving old problems. So, how do you personally approach finding new strategies or partners to help drive growth in your business?
I'm a big believer in experiments, right? And typically, uh, I've run multiple experiments across both the product, sales, marketing, and or entire company itself. Every organization, or rather incentivize them to go figure out what experiments that you would want to run, have a very thoughtful, you know, very meaningful conversation about it. What is it that you would achieve from it? And then run them parallelly, right? I want to give them a free hand of running them parallelly. For example, we've just hired a GTM engineer team, and they say, hey, you know what? Our open rates for an outbound is not going all that well. Why don't we have a first touch point, move a little more further up, and create a newsletter campaign? Said, well, why don't we try, right? And do a small experiment. So we went and bought Brevo, created two campaigns on that, and then, figured out, hey, from, instead of we going cold through email campaign, why don't we just look at the open ones from this newsletter campaign and only touch upon that? So we can reduce the outbound email budget. We can also do a lot more, broader scale with Brevo or other newsletter campaign like that. And then boom, within 15 days or so, we started seeing a significant improvement in open rates, reply rates, the number of signups. So not just the vanity metrics started opening up, we actually had product signups, conversations that we started to have. So some of these experiments are a lot more meaningful. I think I mentioned about, purely crafted outbound emails without AI. Open rates were horrible. It was also so we had to, add, we started using Clay and OpenAI and, started building and learning about Clay tables. And that was all new to me and my team. At least it was new to me. One of my team members knew quite a bit about it. So, we took almost a month or two to learn and work with it and ran a small campaign and see whether our AI personalizations, is it going completely, awry or not? And then what we realized is that, we had to keep on fine tuning it. So now we've done like almost 9 or 11 odd experiments towards fine tuning that particular, messaging that goes out. And that tweak happens almost every alternate day. So a little bit of tweak and we see that result. Run it as a separate campaign and then run an A/B testing towards that. A little bit of tweak, run an A, B, C kind of invariant and see. So I'm big in, in experimentation.
Amazing. I want to start wrapping this up, but I do have a couple of follow-up questions to what you just talking about because you seem very involved in a lot of these processes in your company. Wh- how are you currently spending your days? What does your a day look like for you in your startup?
Yeah, about 20 to 30% of my time I spend outside of the company, work with customers, prospects, talk to various influencers and so on and so forth, and learn a lot from what's happening, in the industry that way. Another maybe 40% of my time I spend, on GTM, and the rest of my time, whatever remains, is on the product. And there are some days where, I spend almost 100% of my time on product, and some days where I'm doing only GTM. So there's, but on a weekly basis, I'm trying to go 30, 30, 30, right? 30% outside, 30% on GTM, 30% on product. I'll see whether that scales, that works. Hopefully, when we get to product market fit, I'll spend a lot more time based on wherever is the appropriate need is, but not in this particular way.
Amazing. Well, with that, I would like to thank you so much for joining this podcast. And I do love to end this with this question. If there is anything that I did not ask you that you were thinking about, it's the floor is yours, and you're free to share.
I think maybe based on your background, I thought you would ask about um, the spend on sales and marketing, or which in for this particular segment, why are you not building the website better? Why are you not doing this? I'm right now I'm leaving a lot of it unsaid, but I think your viewers, our customers do understand that we want to be extremely frugal to places where I don't see any output yet or throughput yet. So those are the ones that have our failed experiments, and we will get back to them once we get more customers, and customers will drive us growth. And then hopefully, we will seek more growth funding at that time.
That completely makes sense. You're handling things as there's a need for them and as you see a purpose for it. And I do see that you're experimenting in other places. So when the website becomes more relevant, when the inbounds become larger, that's where you'll start focusing.
Yeah.
Did I have this right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, amazing. Again, thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing your insights. Once we have completed all the remaining interviews, I'll share the podcast and video shorts with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Edward, for reaching
Eh,
out, and happy to be here.
Thank you.